Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisco Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Whiteout Survival, I want to talk very briefly about our state of power, which, by the way, we did win, and I am the president again. So, long story short, this weekend, the reason I wasn't streaming or posting videos yesterday or the day before is I had a huge family reunion that I was attending, and I was fighting in SvS. In fact, I was war leading. The pros and cons of SvS starting so early in the morning is that at least I could do that before all the main festivities were starting for the family reunion. But anyways, we got the win, really hype. The state we were battling was, like 100+ states older than us. And this is our second win, which is pretty cool. And both times we lost SvS Prep. Now, look, I don't know why we're losing SvS Prep. It could be that we just keep fighting states that are older than us. It could be that people are just not hoarding up sufficiently. They had, in this SvS, literally twice the number of FC3 players than we did. And we won anyways. And, credit where credit is due. The fighters in our kingdom are super active, even though maybe we don't have as much depth, for whatever reason. And also our top end is actually just insane. Pale One and Withroad were absolutely cooking. Absolutely cooking. And what do I mean by that? Look, normally in an SvS, I'm expecting to have to do some really sophisticated stuff, okay, with regard to rallies and counter rallies and counters, and all this crazy stuff that in the end game, I think that's what a lot of states are doing. But we just literally got Pale One into the Garrison and put all our FC3 players in there and just held and reinforced. And periodically Withroad did some clutch recaptures when we did lose it, which we did. They were rallying us literally 6 rallies at a time, which was kind of crazy. It was honestly so many rallies that it made it kind of confusing at times to actually time when you wanted to reinforce against what. But, let me show some of these reports and just give you some perspective on what really was happening. And, look, I still feel like streaming my SvS at this stage of the game is incredibly revealing and would give our enemies just a lot of information that would be unfair to my state to do. So that's why I haven't been streaming these SvSs. But let's get a look here at some of the reports and some of the stronger players. We do a little bit of a breakdown here of kind of what was going on. But you can see here Pale One is our strongest player in terms of, overall power and also stats. So if we scroll on down, these charms are pretty far along. The gear is pretty far along, right? But when we scroll down here, this is where we get to the really interesting insights with the stats, okay? So first of all, let's look at the average troop level. We are averaging, FC2 for our infantry and our lancers, but FC1 on our marksmen, which is kind of wacky. So we definitely have... Oh, I guess there's very few marksmen in here. Yeah. When you're getting hit with 6 rallies, managing your troop balance got really weird. It did get weird. Okay, but scrolling on down to these stats. They had more infantry attack than us, but look at the Pale One infantry health, bro. 1,482%. Oh my God. 1,015 infantry defense. Look, I was prepped for this fight with the understanding that the Mia rally meta is absolutely busted and nobody can hold. Nobody could hold except Pale One and Withroad are kind of a cut above with regard to their account progression. You can see here his Lancer attack is lower. And that is because, by the way, the sort of attacker advantage here is that Mia is giving rally attack of 15%. And what's Greg doing? Greg is not. He's doing rally health. But yeah, Jero is doing rally troop attack, right? So that is a huge amount of stat boost there. In fact, if I go over here, this is where you should be looking at this kind of stuff. 30% rally troop attack. insane. 15% rally troop health. Whereas we only have 2 relevant bonuses here for sort of multipliers on a widget. We have the 15% defender troop defense and the 15% defender troop health. We are using the Logan, Philly, Greg combination. Greg is the one with the widget, as I was just showing you, that is for rallying, not defending. So that definitely makes a difference. But Philly at least has that defensive widget. Logan has that defensive widget, which is great. And that worked out very well in our favor here. In fact, you can see the diff in the gear just kind of like visually in terms of how progressed it is. And like, look, the dude on the right is more progressed than I am, like with the hero gear. Okay, it's just Pale One stuff is insane for the age of our accounts right now. Anyways, cruising on through these stats a little bit further, we can see the marksman attack. They have more attack than we do. Look at this, the marksman defense. We have so much 990, 1254 on marksman lethality, and 1239.4 on the marksman health. I mean, like 300% more of these critical stats. Just very, very oppressive. So this makes a big difference. And, look, I did say it was like 6 rallies at a time, right? Like you can see we're down to 908,000 troops by the time this rally hits. But we were trying to like reinforce in between. Here's this player Rapture, which I think they may have changed their profile picture. But if I scroll on through, like the stat situation is like very similar to the last, right? And everybody's powered up with these 20% buffs. At this point, the pet buffs had kind of expired. They opened with pet buffs, so Pale One popped his pet buffs also very early. Oh, no, that's the profile picture I was remembering, actually. That was one of their top rally and Garrison leads. And what are they using? They used Jero Alonso Philly. Having the Mia would have been a big deal here. Mia, I mean, look, even I maxed Mia. Okay, I maxed my Mia, which I struggled with this, okay? But I 100% maxed my Mia. And anytime I'm struggling with an investment decision, I reach out to my homie Skillet from State 300. And I'm like, hey, bro, what do you think? Should I max Mia now? And he's like, look, Mia is the actual GOAT. And I figure, you know what? Like, I'm one of the leaders of this state. I want to contribute to our getting SvS wins. I get that spinning the wheel over time is going to give me value. There are times for value, and there's times for, we'll call it effectiveness in combat. And I figure SvS is one of those times where you got to value or prioritize the effectiveness in combat. So I could have slow rolled the Mia and got a lot of value from Lucky Spins. Could have got a lot of content out of that too, but she is far and away the most important investment in Gen 3 as I understand it. She'll be used for bear trap rallies for an eternity, I'm told. Long story short, I fully maxed my Mia, including the widget, because I figured I was going to rally. Little did I know that like Pale One and Road would do literally all the heavy lifting. Like even when we lost the middle, which happened a lot, I think like, we had about double the occupation time of the opposing side before they kind of like were, kind of called it quits, and they were like, okay, you guys got it. And they were very persistent. Like credit to our opponents here. I should have done this earlier, but like they were, besides some banter that happened in world chat, and it's probably more our fault than their fault, but fault doesn't really matter because it was all honestly not a big deal. But they were easy to work with. Everybody pretty much followed the rules. The only complaint I saw is a little bit of trash talking in world chat, which, it stopped and people apologized. And that was the end of that, which is like all within the realm of extremely normal. And I think, expected discourse, quite frankly, in an SvS. But anyways, long story short, they were great to work with, to coordinate, very easy to sort of set the rules with. And the rules that we set were pretty simple. I think it was like city hits allowed at the start, and then no city hitting right around the castle so that people can like port in and, get set up to actually enjoy that fight. And then, shortly after the castle battle ends, people can resume city hitting again. There may have been 1 or 2 other rules in there. We set up areas for people to teleport. So like we had the left half, they had the right half. Yeah, I mean there may have been some people like from our side over the line, from their side over the line, but like honestly, like it was fine. Like, it was perfectly fine. I don't think anybody was complaining about it. Yeah, like 100%. You know, I would view this at like as close to 100% rule compliance as you can expect to get from an SvS, which was great. So I will say, like, that is really awesome in my experience of this game so far. Is that, like, yeah, there's going to be people that are weirdos, but like for the most part, you know, the leaders of the states tend to be pretty well composed, pretty easy to work with, and like maybe we've just been lucky in who we get matched with. So I don't know. If we only had 2 SvSs, I should reserve judgment. But anyways, yeah, was a good SvS overall. In fact, I was showing you stats here and reports, right? So generally, this is what reports were looking like, right? Where we're trading like 3 for 1 positive, which is just kind of insane. And you know, the reason we would get knocked out is like if they're sending 6 rallies, like we try to reinforce in between these rallies, right? But you can't always pull it off. And that's when we get bumped out. Like this is a situation where we're very close to just getting bumped out of here, right? 200,000 survivors. Very, very close to just getting completely bumped out. And, you know, that did happen a bunch. I've got every report that I was in saved. And I was in all of them, actually. So maybe I missed a few, quite frankly. So I don't need to go through every report. But I did want to show, like, us getting bumped out, because that, you know, like happened a fair amount. Yeah, like, but you can see, like, when the number of survivors is like 335,000, like we gotta get reinforcements back into that garrison. And I suppose like my biggest learning with regard to the reinforcing the garrison situation is that I felt like at times I was almost fighting my own state more than the enemy state. By that I mean, like, I kept having to kick out like people that had low troop tier and kick out people that had low troop counts, because here was the issue. And like, you know, look, I try to keep some advantages for us, but I feel like this is pretty straightforward, so I'll share it. Ooh, yeah, this is an interesting one. Anyways, what I realized is that, you know, of course you can only have 15 people reinforcing a structure, right? So if you can only have 15 people reinforcing a structure, if you have 14 out of 15 in the middle already, that means those 14 people have to be sending reinforcing troops to the middle, right? Otherwise, you're losing the middle. Like, you can't just hope like one other person comes in to reinforce between rallies and that's going to be sufficient, because it isn't going to be sufficient. So there we go. Here's one where we got defeated, right? Oh no, that's me solo sending. GG. Yeah, so this is me trying to reinforce, by the way, to replenish my troops. So the trick here is that if you already have a troop composition in the middle, you can, and maybe I'm blundering here, so you let me know down below in the comments. I probably am blundering. But I basically would send with no heroes, because I didn't want like the heroes to get replaced. I don't actually know how this works. I probably should. But I would just, yeah, send no heroes, just troops. And I think that's probably a blunder, but I was like hurrying, if that makes sense. Like, often I would send 3 or 4 reinforcements between rallies. But if I reinforce and I send heroes, is it going to replace the heroes that I have in there? I don't think so. I think I would have to kick my army out to fully replace the heroes, right? So I probably should be sending with heroes, and I'm taking more sevs than I need to in this situation. Yeah. But it was hectic, not gonna lie. This one's kind of even, right? Because we're starting with 753,000 troops, right? Yeah. Right, so you can see, like, the timing here was crucial. I bet you can I get this down to the second? So 9:06:25. Okay, I was 3 seconds late there. Yeah. In this case, though, there may have been like multiple rallies that I was trying to reinforce in between. But you can see, like, this one hit at 25. This one hit at 24. I guess that's just a couple in quick succession. Either I don't have it favorited, or I don't know. There's definitely a time window here where I probably don't have some favorited. Let's see. Can we see how close together these were? Let's find out. So this is 45, 43, 42. Okay, that's just a 3-pack that I have favorited. This is 49, 45, 31. Those are pretty spread. 28. This is, what do we got here? 54, 56. That's a minute away. Okay. So this is 59, 49. I'm sure I still have like a bunch of rally reports that are in here. It's honestly like kind of insane when you're in the middle, like how many people still solo set into the middle and get dead troops. This like actually just baffles me why people do this. Like, and this is a player from our own state, by the way, attacking us in the middle and losing their troops in the process. Like how? That is an incredible skill issue. Yeah, the same player. That's incredible. This is also someone from our own state. Like, why? Actually insane. Yeah. All right. Whatever. You get the idea. You enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe. I enjoyed this SVS, which is good because we do this every month. And state transfers are going to open up, I think, after our next SVS. So I'll probably have a separate video talking about state transfers. Subscribe. We're going to take transfers to our state. We've got a special Discord server for that. I'll have a link to it down below. When people send me DMs and they're like, hey, I really want to join your state, I just send them to that Discord. That is where all the action's going to be. We're going to have a form that's going to be available there, and you can fill out the form to apply. And then now that actually we have an SVS date set, not an SVS date, a transfer date set, we'll go in and start to actually confirm people to alliances over the coming weeks. And we're going to get a team together to kind of evaluate who comes in and kind of where they're headed. All right. You enjoy the vid? Throw a like on here, subscribe. You want to see my last SVS? I mean, dude, it's just like hundreds of these reports. It's actually just insane. You want to see my last SVS? All of cards over here. All right. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.